Welcome to another weekend here on the platform. My name is Sam Omashe. On the program this week, two guests will be joining me to analyze issues heating up the polity. First is the probe of the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, that has spiraled into a war of words between active participants in the ongoing drama. And are the travails of suspended acting chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Ibrahim Magu, a blessing or a curse for Nigeria's anti-graft war? Before the discussion segment, my column, City of Cities, will be read to you now.
City of Cities. Lagos may be the vertebral bone of the Nigerian economy, but like a bone gone awry during a meal, it can get stuck in the throat. The question of how to make Lagos right for everyone was the subject of a webinar recently organized by the United States Embassy. The topic of discussion was transportation. Lagos is nothing if not its mobility. For all its residents, the story every morning is not whether to move, but how to move, who should move, who to move to, where to move, what to move, and when to move. Sometimes the Lagosian would have to understand each of these options as an epicenter of all the other options. The question is, when he goes, he stays, sometimes in a rut. That's what we all call go slow, a snail in perennial motion. The US picked an expert, Robin Hutchinson, to give the main talk, and Nigerians also were selected to talk, and they included a representative of the Lagos State Commissioner for Transportation, Engineer Toriola, a traffic specialist, Tola Odeyemi, and Professor Innocent Ogude, a former vice chancellor and also an expert. What struck me was that the issue of transportation in Lagos was mostly addressed as transportation, but I could not but be impressed by the way each discussant displayed understanding of the technicalities of transportation. The number of cars, the inadequacy of roads, space management, budgetary bugbears, easing nodal nuts, potholes, etc. Hutchinson showed great knowledge of what we need for every city, and they also applied to Lagos. Her focus on space management was on the money, except that all who move around for money think little about some of the fine points, like focusing on the bus as the target of mass transit. Other issues include sidewalks, bike lanes, trains, metro, bus, light rail, train, and additional creative points to foster connectivity between buildings and facilities. She made the great point that to move is to seek freedom for happiness, not just freedom to get around, but freedom from disruptions, from harm, freedom to connect, and from exclusion. Odeyemi noted that Lagos is not like anywhere in the country as regards cars per kilometer, a point that Engineer Toriola specifies as 284 vehicles as against the national average of 11 per kilometer. She hinted that in 2017 alone, gridlocks cost the city 42 billion naira in productivity. She called for improved regulation, water transportation, and staff should share transportation. COVID has taught us all that more people can work at and from home. She made a salient point about budgeting, that the impression is that Lagos has all the money in billions in revenue. But she insisted that even healthcare alone will gulp all its money and not even satisfy all we need in that sector. She also hinted at a behavioral factor, the major reference to culture, when she adverted to the rage over right-of-way, the heavy-duty trucks, and challenges of roundabouts. Professor Ogude said the reason Lagos lost its reign as capital was partly because of the need to ease commuting. He called for smart traffic lights, road pricing to discourage car usage, taxing car parking, introduction of carpooling, accelerating light rail system, and more focus on water transportation, which is only 1% as yet. He added that long travel corridors like Orile to Apapa and Apapa to mainland can be circumvented with alternatives in ferry travels. Speaking for the Lagos State government, Toriola reminded all of the work in progress in major corridors in the state, including Ikorodu to CMS. Referring to calls for water transportation, he documented the work by the BOS of Lagos, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on jetties around the state. In fact, 14 boats are bobbing on water. The governor is pivoting to collaborate with the private sector. Toriola reminded all that Lagos was about the smallest state, but with great population density. In spite of this, the state has been broken into zones to allow for ease of movement and control. Lagos as a city of cities. The point could have been made that Lagos is a rescue center, a city of refuge not only for the runaways from inefficiencies in other parts of the country, but also a last mile for internal migrants. Thousands come to Lagos daily, never to return. It is pressure on housing, on jobs, on crime control, on medical care. So the problem of transportation is a problem of development. While it is technical, it cannot be handled alone. And that calls for the political and the need to reignite the call for special funding and status for Lagos. It is where the federal government ought to be grateful that Lagos has helped to keep the country from the turbulence of outrage over state failure. Just as in traffic, everyone's car should be the other's keeper. So it should be for a federal state. The burden should not suffocate one. To kill the one may kill the rest. Jeremy Bentham, who led the utilitarian movement, had the right words. Everyone counts for one, nobody for more than one. As it is for the commuter, so it is for the federating units. It is not an issue that should be taken slightly. The population grows daily, the pressure too. This may create a discontent that may not be Lagos's alone to bear, but the center. If the center cracks, the whole nation tumbles. This is hoping that the center does not wait until it can no longer hold.
Welcome back. Journalist and public affairs analyst Adewale Adeoye and lawyer Olatunbosun Osifora joined me to analyze the issues of both the Niger Delta and the EFCC. Thank you, gentlemen, for being on the show. Thank you, Wale and Olatunbosun.
My pleasure.
Now, Wale, I was asking you earlier, this issue of the Niger Delta Commission with the exchange of words and allegations between the former acting or MD of the IMC and the Minister of Niger Delta, that's Godswill Akpabio and Joy Nunez. This drama is becoming, at once, it could be called a tragic-comic affair, and in another sense, it's just comedy of errors. The errors we have not proved yet.
Well, I think what is going on between the two individuals symbolizes the rot in the system. The NDDC is one of the richest commissions in Nigeria. As the year 2000 that the commission was established, there has not been any investigation into the running of the affairs of that commission. I think what we have seen in the past few days is the opening of a can of worms. But I can tell you that that is just a tip of the block. It shows that the NDDC itself, perhaps since inception, needs to be probed. Because if this could happen in the last 2-3 years, then you can imagine what may have happened since the year 2000 that the commission was established. So I think if you look at the budget of the NDDC, with about 346 billion in 2019 alone, you now go to the Niger Delta and ask yourself, what can you use to justify this huge budget? So I think what is going on between the individuals is a reflection of the rot in that commission. And we're not just talking about probing those individuals, but to open up the seal so that we can understand how that commission is run. We can understand, how contracts are awarded, and not just in the past 2-3 years, but perhaps in the last 1 decade. I'm almost certain that if we can do this kind of investigation, Nigerians will be embarrassed and more facts will be unveiled that will actually shock the entire world. What is going on is, there are things that we have heard as rumors, but I think the two individuals have confirmed that there is a lot of, there's a lot of corruption going on in NDDC. So I think it's a challenge for the federal government to actually institute a probe, an independent probe, so that Nigerians can know how this commission has managed the finances of that establishment since the past 20 years that the commission was established.
Latubosun, we have seen that there is actually a tense atmosphere of brickbats and exchange between Nunez and Akpabio. You get a sense from these things going on that it is either somebody is very pure or somebody is very dirty. And what do you make of those allegations? Because there are so many leveled by the former MD of the commission, of the IMC, that's Nunez, not only about the swearing of a blood oath, but of a criminal offense by the law of spending money without appropriation, or even of the story of a case in which the woman says, I spent 8 billion, and the records showing that 81 point something billion was spent. So what is going on?
It's rather unfortunate that this is coming out, and what we have seen from both parties is that neither of the parties is less guilty, because we've seen accusations and counter accusations, and what made me realize that these people are not particularly serious and they're not the best for the job is when people leave main issues and they start going personal, then you know that it's either they're running away from something or they're trying to protect something.
Yes, Adeoye, but the allegations are serious, and even though the allegations are so serious, there must be some kernel of truth to some of the things we have heard, because some of these things seem to be backed by documents.
Yes. I think from the evidence brought to the public domain, there is a lot of corruption in NDDC. We have seen even the names of the accounts where slush funds were lodged. And it's not just the NDDC alone. You now ask yourself the role of the banks that are held on to this money without reporting to the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency, without reporting to the EFCC. Because if certain lodgements are made and then they are suspicious, it is the responsibility of the bank to report to the appropriate authorities. So there's a network of a rogue cell that has a very powerful network, not just Akpabio and the other and the woman, the MD, the former MD, but also their collaborators in the financial institution and then within the political circle. So I think there is also a conscious attempt to shift debate from the substance to shadows. We are talking about fraud, and someone is talking about whether somebody has, like my colleague said, he has 5 husbands. So there is a conscious agenda to shift the focus from the main debate, which is financial corruption and moral misconduct. So I think we should understand these issues clearly, and we should not allow them to shift attention of Nigerians from the main focus. That place stinks. It stinks. So we want the appropriate authorities to investigate the series of allegations of.
Well, there was also 2 things that happened in the course of the week. One was that the former MD, Nunez, was about to move to Abuja from Port Harcourt to give testimony to the House of Representatives. And our house was surrounded by police. The police CP said, according to her, she did not know about it, so it looked like the order came from some nebulous quarter. Then the other thing was that the acting MD Ponde appeared before the committee in the National Assembly, especially the House of Representatives, and was not ready to give testimony. What will you make of these two developments?
Well, some people, when we went, if we go by what the CP and even the IG's office said, that they didn't know the policemen, nobody gave authority from their end to go and arrest the woman. And I've read other comments too that said that the woman staged the whole drama because if she knew she was going to Abuja yesterday, she would have gone a day before and all that. She could choose whenever she decides to go. But as for policemen coming, this was another case of unknown police now, not unknown soldier. Like Fela said. But it's unfortunate that can happen in this kind of time. Now, but secondly, she's aware that she's supposed to appear before the committee. Now, she got there and she says she's not ready. That speaks to the fact that there's a lot of things going on. And I think maybe we need to sit all these parties down. One thing is clear from all this drama. They are deflecting and trying to distract. And I think, like my colleague said, we should not allow that distraction. We should wait and let the assembly be focused and let them make sure that all the documentary evidence are tendered. Okay, she has not been able to appear today.
She has appeared eventually.
If she comes back the next day, and says she's not ready, then you now know that all this going back and forth, all this drama, it's a pure act to deflect and derail the whole probe. That's just it.
I think that she appeared on Friday to the House of Representatives, and she appeared from the from the State House, Port Harcourt, via via Skype or Zoom or one of these systems. So she has been able to give her own testimony to the House of Representatives. Now, the president has issued a statement and intervened. To me, the intervention seems a little vague. He has said that all the coordinating bodies should be there and they should work and they should report to him speedily. What is speedily, Adeoye?
I think that statement does not inspire hope in me as a person, because one would have expected a more frontal position from the president, considering how significant that commission is in the lives of the people of Niger Delta who laid the golden eggs. So just asking the coordinating committees to work, and I think it's very, it's not a statement that actually shows the impression that the president wants to put his feet down. I think the president is still trying to, it sounds to me more or less like a political statement. It's not a statement that gives direction to what he expects or to what Nigerians expect him to do in terms of let heads roll in NDDC. Who are those people that are involved? It's not just these two individuals. There are all and perhaps maybe some people also in the National Assembly were also involved, in this scam. So I think we expect more from the president rather than just making a statement that seems to, just try to attempt to sweep the fundamental issues under the carpet.
And then there's no, there's no sunset. There's no deadline to what will happen. And then if you are undertaking an investigation into what is going on, should the main dramatic personnel be on their seats while they are being investigated when they still have powers to affect even the investigation and even distort it?
In this kind of thing, with the kind of worms that have been opened, I think at this point, some of them should have been recused from their seats, and some other people allowed to take over. Because one of the things you find out in the course of investigation is that if I'm being investigated and I still occupy my seat, I can manipulate things. The president in the course of this drama, because if there was no drama, well, they should allow them to carry on things. I know there are state functions, there are executive functions to carry on within the commission, but as it stands, this one, counter allegations and allegations here and there, I think they should have allowed some of them to just step down, allow other people to step in, or just pause activities at the commission for now so that this thing can be done. Because you're talking about trillions of naira here, and it's possible for these people to manipulate things. Now, so I think the best thing to do is just allow some of them to step down, allow other people to step in their shoes, or even halt activities for now so that things can be done, and then we see the true position of things. That's my own position.
Okay. Okay, let's quickly look at what is going on with the EFCC, with the removal of Magu, and what is going on with the Salami panel and the allegations that have been leveled against the former acting MD of the EFCC, Ibrahim Magu. Adeoye, what do you think is the course is taking? Is this a case of auditing the auditor, investigating the investigator, a case in which the man who is the anti-corruption czar has fallen out with those people who put him there?
Well, I think the EFCC was established by law, so it is not above the law. It could be investigated. But the circumstances surrounding this investigation gives a lot of cause for worry. And it's historical. More than close to 5 years that he was made the acting chairman, he was never confirmed. So it shows that ab initio, there are some very powerful forces who never wanted Magu to be the EFCC chairman. And I think what happened a few days ago is a continuation of the efforts of these elements who are spread across the political parties. But if you look at what Magu has done in the past few years, between January and October last year alone, there were 890 convictions. And I think that was 1 month, particularly that, 7 months, that 1 month that recorded 150 convictions. And if you look at the manner that he was arranged before the panel, the way he was arrested, even though they are saying he was not arrested, was invited, the way he was waylaid, and the whole thing happened within 24 hours. The arrest, the trial, and then we can call it the conviction. It took place not just less than 24 hours, and then it was. And if you compare that with what's happening in NDDC, that the minister is sitting down there, nobody is talking about removing the. Then I think Magu's case is suspicious. I have my doubts that those who are after Magu, I have my doubts that they are very honest. They are very honest intention. I think it's a pawn in the political game by entrenched forces who are corrupt and who wanted him out at all costs. The allegations that have been leveled against him none of them has been able to prove that allegation. That he bought houses in Dubai, we have not been able to see the pictures of those houses. That he lives a kind of lifestyle that is beyond his means. We have not been able to see concrete evidence. So I think if you look at the characters behind the curtain, then you look at their background, then you know that Magu is fighting very powerful forces in the police, in the political class, within the military. And I think these forces have combined to ensure that they put him out of the way. That is what I can read from what is going on.
Now, to wrap up, Latubosun, just in a few words, what would you say? We've had different heads of that commission, and nobody left that place in auspicious circumstances. They were either fired because they were too brash, or they were fired because they collided with one powerful man or the other, and so on. What does it tell us? Are we fighting a war of corruption, or we are fighting as though we are fighting a war on corruption?
Well, as it stands, Magu has really tried. And when the whole thing happened, it was just a case of calling a dog a bad name in order to hang it. So, and we saw with his lawyers how they came back and said he never gave the vice president money, he never said this, he never said that. And it's become a pattern in this country that if you want to get someone out, you just come into the media, hang a lot of things on his neck, particularly when Magu was in detention, at least somebody who was still struggling for freedom. There was no way you come out and say, so since he came out, he has said through his lawyers, this didn't happen, and all of a sudden, those stories have died down. No, so at the end of the day, it just shows us that there is no way you try to fight corruption, that corruption won't fight back.
On the photo essay, top men of British government in cordial photo op with an Oba of Benin, one of whose predecessors they humiliated in what historians dubiously call the Benin Massacre. Just before the program ends, this is my poem in honor of Leah Sharibu. You are in a trial, Leah, accused of innocence. Your court is fear, your husband a witness, the prosecutor is a gun, your judge is time. But what a judge that has witnessed rape and tears in silence for years. The judge boasts patience. May justice not gavel when your hair grows gray. Thank you for watching the program today. You can catch up with my column at www.samomashe.com. Also follow me on Twitter. My handle is @samomashe. Until next time, be good.